This is the second part of the storyline of the Scholar Warrior season. Continuing to the storyline, the firm steps of the Dark Energy user group appear to be approaching the gate of the martial clan residence that had previously been destroyed by Paking's family leading the group. A man with a stern face and a sharp gaze walking at the very front of the man whose name we do not know is the real leader of a mysterious clan who later teamed up with the Pang clan to start a war orchestra in Penjuram. Their arrival turned out to be aimed at monitoring the process of extracting treasures contained in the mountains elsewhere. Muji's parents are talking about an incident that happened not far from their residence. The father has actually conducted an investigation about this, although he suspects that in the end they do not have enough evidence to support his suspicions. However, the shadow of the battle was getting closer to the Heavenly Sword clan, or the 1,000 Swords clan, so the father finally decided to send Muji to train in a closed room to hone his martial skills. Meanwhile, somewhere a row of stone mountains arranged beautifully complete with green trees adorned the magnificent scenery at that location. The duo of grandfather and grandson, who we have known before, are in a hurry to jump over every stone step on the slope after parting with Muji at his grandfather's birthday. It turns out that they came to this place. An old building that looks like a temple is the main purpose of their trip. A large hole is also visible in the wall of the temple, just behind the altar. It seems that someone deliberately broke through this temple and took something that was originally guarded. The two men then perform a mysterious ritual, starting with a little girl, removing a blue stone similar to what Muji has now, and then they focus their energy to find the whereabouts of the object that has been sought from this temple. However, no matter how hard they tried, they finally failed. I don't know what the missing object was. Back to the Heavenly Sword clan's residence, with all Muji's family members, now heading to the independent training location, which is in the basement of his family's residence, separated by a dragon-carved iron door. The training room is complete with lighting and various statues of men practicing the sword, is now a place where Muji spends his time practicing. The father gives Muji a target to be able to leave this room. He must reach the 7th level of martial arts, techniques the pride of his family. Among Muji's brothers, then his eldest sister, he reached that level. It was only able to reach his brother after practicing independently for 3 years in this remote place. A sense of depression began to approach Muji. The shadow of a teenager his age who could spend free time outside made Muji feel treated unfairly. The burden of being the successor to the throne of the head of the family was very heavy felt by this boy penalty, so he realized he had no other choice. With a shaky step, Muji approached a row of weapons and took a sword. Initial steps praised treading the world of Murim. Finally began gusts of wind from Muji's sword movement began to fill the room the first day of training. Muji lived it very seriously. Step by step, swing by swing, made Muji well aware of what his shortcomings were. His whole body ached, his arms and legs began to tremble hot from the muscles that were forced to make Muji fall exhausted, and Muji again grumbled why he had to undergo all this gum in his heart. In the middle of his rest, a knocking sound was heard from the iron door. The family servant was delivering food to Muji instead of rice and his favorite side dishes. Muji was now only given food in the form of 2 kinds of pills, one pill to restore, which one more pill to nourish his body. Lucky Muji's oldest brother smuggled a plate of steamed sponge along with a stack of books to relieve the boredom of his beloved sister. Although later, after checking the contents, it turned out that the book given by Muji's brother was a martial arts book, not just a literary book or encyclopedia that had been Muji's favorite book. It was like he had no other choice. In the middle of reading again, Muji's brain works faster. Every letter in the book will float into his head just like that. Muji can understand every point. This triggers a strange phenomenon. Thanks to martial arts information that enters so much energy in his body, is now rebelling incoherently. The explosion of energy occurred in every part of the boy's body. This then brought Muji to another dimension. He seemed forced to enter a mysterious cave that had been present in his dream, but this time the cave walls radiated a more concentrated light. A golden dragon was also present following Muji's steps. The dragon told Muji that he could more quickly solve the mystery of this mysterious cave. Turning to another place, Peng's family group now comes to the location of their old dark energy user clan's residence. Precisely his grandfather Jeonbun offers to cooperate with this party. Their clan will send workers financial supplies and additional mining equipment for free on the condition that they accept Jeonmun's brother as a student. Not only that, apparently a sign of a big war that will soon come across Murim has begun to be felt by Yeonmun's grandfather, and they decide to take part by siding with this dark energy user clan. The time has passed exactly 6 months since Muji conducted training in a closed room. Muji, who was bored in the middle of his training, now just relaxing on the floor feeling bored, and also lonely, made this boy act up again, still remember about the statue in the training ground. Now they have their respective names written on the forehead of the statue. On the eyes, there are already streaks resembling pupils and expressions of the statues made by Muji arbitrarily. Muji also invited to play and seemed to be friendly with these statues. This Muji did so that he would not go crazy. The mission given by his father had actually been achieved by Muji. The 7th layer of martial arts techniques at Heavenly Sword had been achieved thanks to his training. Now the swing looks more steady. Muji's body can also perfectly follow every formula of his strange sword moves. Muji did not decide to leave the training cavity. Muji was desperate to continue his training at the 8th level. It was not without reason that the 8th level was an absolute requirement for a man in the Heavenly Padang advertisement to occupy the throne as the head of the family, considering that he was the sole candidate for the position. Muji then continued his training, and Muji's Tian, now he felt that he was growing. Hundreds of pills that he had consumed during this time helped this progress. Muji meditated to compress the great energy in his body. New points of energy in Muji's body were now created. Merging these points created a big energy explosion in Muji's body. The energy boost also flows more naturally like a waterfall, which represents the energy flowing rapidly throughout the body. Muji, this new achievement further strengthens our genius puzzle. To penetrate the 8th layer day after day again lived Muji. By practicing now, he can even project the shadow of the statue to accompany him to practice. Slash after slash, stab and slash made the air in the sun training room. Lightning energy also constantly came out of Muji's small body until at some point Emoji reached a point of enlightenment that made him successfully penetrate the 8th layer of the Heavenly Sword clan's martial arts techniques and Freedom Day. Muji also arrived. All family members welcomed the success of this lazy boy and genius. Just a step out of the training room, Muji's father actually gave a new mission to his youngest son. Muji was assigned to attend the Murim Martial Clan Conference to be held at the Student Union Center. Muji was not alone. A series of bodyguards prepared by his father to accompany him on the journey. He had to take the western route through various mountains and forests to reach the meeting location. Although initially refused, Muji accepted the task from his father. This little boy is now leading his entourage towards a journey that he himself does not yet know how long and what kind of danger will await him on the other side. In a room in the Pang Moon family residence, kneeling before his father. Jeonmun has also completed training in his closed room. Junggeun's resentment and anger at Muji has not disappeared, especially when he hears that Muji was assigned his family to attend the Murim conference. Now intending to finish him off praise, he asks his father to contact the assassin plan to kill Muji, who is now on the way, and the request is approved by Jeonmun's father. In another place, Muji's group was seen crossing the mountain range for 4 hours. This group moved with the help of science to relieve Muji's body. At the very front, there was not the slightest hint of fatigue in his small body, while the guards who were behind were already on the loose to compensate for Muji's fast movement. Some of them even vomited like a landsick, because non-stop spending their energy asking Muji for a moment to rest, but unfortunately the request was rejected by Muji, who had returned quickly elsewhere. The team of miners from the Dark Energy User Group had found what they were looking for, a door carved with a black dragon buried deep in the bowls of the mountain. The young man who led them then channeled his dark energy. Then we know if this man is a descendant of Ad Force Samgai Mera, whose leader had brought destruction around Murim. This figure is the figure referred to by grandfather. Muji's little girlfriend, who had discussed earlier behind the door, was stuck a red sword, sealed with a chain of swords, called the Red Heavenly Sword. It is said that this sword was originally pure white, but turned red because it absorbed the blood of thousands of Murim knights who were killed by its users. The man then tried to pull out the sword, and instantly the spirit of his predecessor appeared to know if this man was his descendant. The spirit then lowered a dark energy to the man. A row of black magic spells then floated in the air. A black flash also enveloped the man. This moment became the starting point of the rise back to the red floor, and became a new threat to all the students on the other side. Of the Muji group is now resting after a dozen wading through the wilderness of the guards appear around the campfire while eating their supplies. While Muji himself was dissolved in his training, when all the guards fell asleep, Muji's training reached its climax. Now Muji can feel every movement around him. Wind direction wave of contention. Even the sound of small insects around him can now be perfectly. Muji heard like a third eye thanks to this hard training so far. Achievement after achievement, Muji was still in a reclining position with full concentration. A small group of people quickly moved to the front of the Hall of Fame. The shadow turned out to be a group of assassins who had been hired by Pakeng's family to kill Muji before with a sword weapon that resembled a whip. One of them even quickly attacked Muji. Luckily, Muji, who has been increasing his martial skills, can avoid and warn the group if they are being attacked. A fight in the middle of the night takes place. Each of Muji's bodyguards must at least fight against 2 assassins, while Muji himself is now faced with a chief assassin who has the greatest ability among the attackers. Although he has mastered the 8th layer, Muji still lacks fighting experience. Realizing this, he decided to lure the chief assassin to another place so that he could focus on fighting the chief one-on-one without fear of being disturbed by other assassins. Muji's bodyguards initially oppose this idea as they intend to help their young master, but Muji convinces them that he can take down the assassin. And the chase between Muji and the chief assassin also happened. Trees fell due to the attack from the whip of the chief assassin several times. Both the sword and the fallen tree almost injured Muji's body. The darkness of the night also instantly becomes bright due to lightning sparks and sparks from the friction of the 2 weapons, until at one time Muji's sword slashes, which have been flowed, which cut the assassin's body into 2. This is the first murder committed by Muji. Still with the fresh blood of the assassin who soaked his hands, Muji was sculpted. It took time for Muji to get used to the victim's blood, and the real fight that made life a gamble this moment was used by other assassins who had followed to attack Muji. Luckily, one of his bodyguards managed to save him. Fresh blood again soaked the boy's face. This is the harsh reality in the world of students. In the end, the strong ones who can survive seeing their leader is dead. Some assassins who are still alive fled, not wanting to lose track of the attacker. Muji's bodyguards threw bombs containing the scent of flowers that can be used to track their whereabouts in the future. More than half of the attacking assassins died while on Muji's side. Some of the bodyguards were seriously injured the next day after resting in a safe place overnight. Muji's group decided to find the location of the beggar attacker assassin to be the only option for them, as in the Murim title, most beggar clans are always depicted with the information center organization of their large number of members, as well as superior disguise abilities being one of the peculiarities of this clan. With a few coins and the Muji Heavenly Sword clan's family aid finally delivered by the branch chairman of the beggar clan in the area, some important information managed to get they were also introduced to a burly young man with a permanent tattoo on the right side of his body. It is said that this young man inherited a high level of science from his family that centered on sharpening the sense of smell like a dog, so that any extent a person ran away from home or lost his smell could be smelled by this man by smelling the smell samples that left rather strange that they were thanks to the smell investigation of the muscular man earlier. Muji and his bodyguards now get the last location of the assassin in their house, and then come to that location while waiting for a group of other families. Apparently, there are other parties who also hold a grudge against this assassin group, and this is used by Muji to increase the portion of the assassin's crackdown force. Before long, the Muji waiting group arrived. The assault mission began. Dozens of heat that had been attached to explosives released by the alliance group marked the Muji group, who were on the front line, could start their attack. Explosions were heard everywhere one by one. The assassin group was also successfully subverted according to the plan. There was no mercy for the assassins this time. While in the deepest part of the headquarters, a thin man appeared watching his property to be taken away. This man was apparently the leader of the assassin group who had previously attacked Muji, a combination of two dark martial arts attacks on his base. This man realized that this was the biggest disaster for his group when he was in the middle of the lath-packing Muji's group entering like Hattori ninjas. The chief assassin, who was cornered, threw a smoke bomb to escape. The chase between Muji and the chief assassin, who ran into the forest, also occurred. A variety of ninja moves, such as cloning moves, hiding moves to remove the aura issued by the chief assassin in order to save his life. Unfortunately, Muji, who is past the 8th level of coconut and heavenly martial arts, can break and know all the types of moves of the chief assassin, which ultimately makes the chief assassin lose. Our hero wins easily in this fight and manages to get all the evidence about the involvement of Pakeng's family in the previous assassin attack. After packing and dividing all the loot from the assassinades on all his bodyguards, Muji's group now continues the journey forest by forest, mountain and valley, passed by Muji's group without any significant obstacles, until one day they arrive at the territory of Kelen Beladeli Shaolin, a row of pagodas which are the graves of Shaolin monks welcoming the arrival of Muji's group. The smell of alcohol and grilled meat immediately called the funeral group, then looking for its origin. When Muji found the source, a monk beard was sitting relaxed enjoying wine, and also grilled meat at the top of one of the tombs. No, if Muji realized his presence, this monk quickly disappeared. Very regular movements. Muji even had to use the power of his third eye to search for this monk, and how surprised Muji was that this monk again knew that he was being watched. Feeling that something was wrong, Muji also invited the group to rush to the Shaolin temple. When he arrived at the Muji temple, which was greeted by the head monk, telling about the strange monk, the head monk explained that the monk was named Jin. He was a strong newt who chose to isolate himself with his own lifestyle. A tragedy in the past, Maiden chose to leave Shaolin. Got this information, Muji actually felt curious to leave his entourage. Muji circled the forest here and there in search of the figure of Jin. There was a call from Muji, who said if his meeting with Jin was a good fate for Muji. After searching for long enough, Jin Muji finally found the bearded monk was cooking rabbits that he seized from the forest fox, with the power of which the fire Jin apparently knew was Mujiwasi. and he shouted for Muji to come out of hiding. Both are now facing each other. Surprisingly, Jin expressed words like people who are affected by mental disorders. Muji's great energy in the body seems to trigger something in Jin that makes him rave incoherently. Jin leaves Muji, just like Muji, who sees this, is getting curious. He quickly activated the body warning kick to chase the Jin, who ran very fast, was disturbed by the pursuit of the spinning Jin Muji, and attacked Muji with his magic footprint kick. The golden aura enveloped the palms of the Jin, felt challenged Muji to face the move with the same movement. The golden aura also came out of the two palms of Muji. The friction of the two energies was getting stronger all over the ground at the location of the two warriors were cracking. Jin, who was surprised by Muji's strong defense this time, used the palm of his other hand while laughing happily. And Muji was taken away thanks to the attack from the hands of this genie. The boy mutated the blood of all the veins throughout his body also stiffened. Muji was heard on the ground. A strange sound came out from all over Muji's body. A big change happened to his little body thanks to the fight earlier. Muji shook his muscles, hardened. Muji's eyes even released a white smoke light, also came out of his mouth, until after a while the critical condition was successfully subsided, and the genie had gone far into the forest, leaving Muji lying helpless. 3 days have passed since the incident. Muji now woke up in the guest room of the Shaolin temple. Apparently Muji's bodyguards managed to find Dana and bring her to this place. A foul smell filled the room. Muji, who just realized was grumbling, has been laid in a dirty bed, but one of Muji's bodyguards actually explained, starting from him being found lying in the forest, all over Muji's body secreting black liquid. Without stopping, Muji's bodyguards assumed if it was a dirty blood coat, or the English term infidelities, that came out by itself thanks to a big change in Muji's body accidentally. Again, a new achievement in life. Muji did not recover from what he experienced. Muji again looking for the whereabouts of Jin. In his third meeting with Jin, Muji this time had to go home with a battered Jin with empty hands, all out beating Muji's little body, no mercy. We've Monk Berwog. This the next day when Muji woke up. Strangely, Muji felt all his muscles stronger thanks to Bunyoken by the monk beard, and Muji excited back into the forest to find the whereabouts of the Jin. In this fourth battle, they fought 2 days and nights without stopping until in the end, Jin told Muji to use his sword Enlightenment, obtained by Muji this time, when Jin raved if Muji had to use a sword like an extension of his own arm. Instantly attack after attack lodged by Jin with his stick can be deflected with a test sword, which in the end, the ultimate attack from Muji also split Jin's stick into two. The last 2 days of training with this crazy monk brought Jin's sword ability to the next level. At the end of the story, Jin is like giving Muji an energy channel as a farewell greeting. And we are already at the end of the story of Season 1 of this manhwa. The total chapters that we have summarized so far are 43 chapters. As for the status of this manual, now in a 7-month hiatus, since the hiatus, there is no further information about the continuation of the story. We can only wait here while hoping that the author can continue the story of the Scholar Warrior. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.